Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this kind of a blurry impressionist style floral. We're going to be using acrylics, and I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat for our live show, so if you've got questions for me, you can ask those, and I'll try to answer them while we're painting. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to be using a Fredrix Pro Belgian linen canvas board today. This is a 9x12 size, but you can really use any size that you'd like. Let me go over our brushes really quick. We're going to be using a large number 8 filbert and a number 4 filbert for some of the background stuff to do kind of that blurry background work. Then I've got a number 2 bright and a number 1 round and a number 2 aught round for some of the more detailed work on the flowers. And then I've got, these are the 6100 series in the green handled brushes from Princeton. And these are the Princeton Select brushes, the 10 aught bristle fan and the 3/8 inch Deerfoot stippler. And then I've got a Velvet Touch Willows Blender 3/8 inch. Really any of these brushes, this one we're just going to be using for splattering, but these two are going to be kind of getting some of that kind of blurry effect, scrubbing in. So really any kind of scrubby stiff bristled brush will work for that. And then I'm going to have some angle brushes just for some of the detail work on some of the flowers, 3/8 inch and 1/4 inch angle shader and the Velvet Touch line as well. Thank you to Princeton, our brush sponsor, and Fredrix, our canvas sponsor, for providing our materials for tonight's show. They don't pay me, but I use their products, so I'm happy to happy to give them a plug. If you want to buy any of the materials from tonight, I've got links down in the description to my Amazon store where you can get those, and also to the Brush Guys where you can get the brushes. I've got, let's go over our colors real quick. Unbleached titanium, titanium white, quinacridone magenta, cadmium red light, cadmium yellow medium, yellow oxide, ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple, burnt sienna, and burnt umber. And this is the golden glazing liquid satin that we'll be using for some of the blending. As I said, all the colors and all the materials that we're using are listed down in the description. So if you kind of missed that and I went over too quickly, just click the show more and it'll drop down all that information for you. You also may, if you've got one of these little pouncer things, little foam pouncers, you could use something like this too for some of the stuff that we're going to be doing. All right, let's get started here. So I'm just wetting down. How are you doing, then?
I'm doing good.
Before I start, hopefully y'all like this and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And if you subscribe, you can also join in our chat with us while we're painting here tonight. So
I think I will.
Welcome to the show.
Tuesday nights.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to start out with some unbleached titanium, and I've grabbed a pretty good amount of the glazing liquid because I want it to kind of give it a little bit extra drying time. I'm also going to use some water. So I've just got regular water in a spray bottle. I'm going to spray my palette one time, or my canvas one time. That will moisturize the canvas. You can even kind of rub that water in if you want, or brush it on with a brush if you don't have a spray bottle. But you just want kind of a little bit of water on your canvas. That helps the paint flow around on the canvas for this kind of thing a little bit easier. So I'm just going to slap on some of this unbleached titanium, literally just kind of slapping it on there, back and forth, zigzaggy motion. Get some of that color on there, grab some of the white, maybe a little bit of this ultramarine blue, mix those two together with that color, grab a little bit more of that unbleached, or that glazing liquid, putting some of this on. I'm going to start with my lighter colors because those will be the hardest to kind of get back if we cover over them too much. We want to kind of leave those light areas if we can. Okay, so just kind of doing that. Getting a little bit more water on my brush. And let's go ahead and grab some of the ultramarine blue and some dioxazine purple. Ooh, that's a pretty color. Okay, so that's too bright, so I'm going to grab some burnt umber, and that will kind of neutralize that color, make it a little bit less in your face bright. going to grab some of that glazing liquid. And I'm going to put a little bit of this up here. Now, if I did this right, these colors should still be wet. So what you'll see what's happening here. As I touch them, they're going to start to kind of pick up those colors. I don't want to go down too far with this right off the bat because I don't want to contaminate all of my lighter colors. That's going to be all I need to do. Clean out my brush really quickly. Now, if at any point this kind of dries on you or starts to get sticky, just dry it completely and then add a little bit more of your light colors on there. So you can always kind of go back in and keep blending this later, but you don't want to keep blending it if it's starting to dry. So I'm going to create kind of a gray now, mixing that ultramarine blue with a little bit of the burnt umber and my white. A little bit of the unbleached titanium, and I'm going to grab some of my glazing liquid. And now I'm going to start in this lighter area, and I'm going to blend over that edge, pull some of that color down, blend those two together a little bit.
So now when you were talking about contamination, is that kind of like color cooties?
Well, what happens is as you work, your brush is picking up color. So if I go down here and go down into this light area, it's got this purple in it now. So I want to, when I'm introducing like a light color, I want to start in this light area and go up into the dark, but then I don't want to go back down too far into the light area unless I want that color down there. So there is a little bit of this color down in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down in here.
Nice.
And you can see as I work, the farther away that I get from that purple, I haven't picked up any more purple. So it's going to, it goes pretty far. It's still got that purple in there all the way down to here. But now it's kind of running out. So once it runs out, I'm going to go back up here and pick up a little bit more of that purple. And just blend through a little bit more. Pull it down. And I'm really just kind of doing little crisscrossy brush strokes to get that kind of impressionist textured look that I want. And the filbert brush kind of does a good job of this because it's already got kind of that soft rounded edge. All right, let's grab some of the quinacridone magenta, a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm mixing it with that purple color, so it's kind of getting all these colors. All these colors are going to mix. You really can't do this wrong necessarily. Just kind of try to blend your edges. That's the main thing. We want it to kind of look all soft and flowy back here. So it doesn't really matter what colors you use as long as they kind of all mix and blend well together and you don't create kind of muddy colors. Like at this point, you wouldn't want to put a white or yellow, a yellow over your purple because those are, when they blend, they'll make a brown, unless you want a brown. But you just kind of need to know how these colors are going to react to one another when you're mixing them and blending them into one another. Okay, so I've got a lot of that lighter color up in here. Let me grab some of my blue. I see a couple of pops of blue. I'm adding this glazing liquid over here every time I'm picking up more paint. That will keep those paints moist just a little bit longer. This glazing liquid has an extender in it, the golden glazing liquid does. Most extenders do not. So if you or most glazing liquids do not have an extender in them. So if you are using another brand, you may want to just use water instead of the glazing liquid for this, or use an extender that's made for extending paint dry time. Grabbing some of the white and the unbleached titanium here, trying to get kind of a lighter color. It's kind of turning pink, but that's okay. What?
I was going to say, so use an extender that's made for extending?
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that people get the right stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm glad I cleared that up.
You get in that whole painting zone and your mind gets into that into that artistic realm.
Yes, it does.
I'm the same way with engineering and Excel sheets. Yeah.
Let me start. I don't have a comeback to that.
That's
I was trying to
okay.
come up with something. But
If you're new to the channel, this is just normal for us. So I know when she's deep in art thought, so I can just throw her for a loop.
Yeah, he kind of tries to throw me.
Yeah, just keep it fun and interesting for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Got white here. Going back up in here. You can see how going back over these dark colors is almost impossible to get it back light while it's wet. If you wait, you can do the lighter color over the top of it later. So this one was the ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt umber. Just made it kind of a gray color. And I'm just kind of trying to create some really soft flowy. Okay, I can tell that this is starting to get dry because it's getting sticky and it's not blending anymore. Like it's just grabbing my paint. And so I need to be careful and not mess with that area. I'm going to put down some color though, because I want color there, but I definitely don't want to blend into that area because it's not going to blend. It's just going to lift off of my paint brush. Okay, grabbing some of that quinacridone magenta mixed in with that purple color down here. It's a little bit darker. There's a really dark area right here in the middle. This is just our first layer. It does not have to look really great at this point. Probably won't. That's normal. That's okay. Just gonna keep going, working. We're gonna work in layers, so we'll have. I may actually need you to dry this. I said I wouldn't, but I probably am going to.
Ooh.
Have to have you dry this after all, honey.
I can do that.
Because I will need to have it dry when I do my scrubbing for the gray background or the kind of flowers and things in the background. All right, so creating a gray with that ultramarine blue and brown burnt umber color, adding some yellow oxide, or I'm sorry, and unbleached titanium. And yeah, there we go. Add some of that kind of brownish color down in here. Just lightly. This color is starting to get sticky over here, so I can't do too much with it right now. Grabbing some more of the glazing liquid. That'll kind of help get it to blend and stick. There we go. Okay, so we've got a good kind of fuzzy starting point up here. Let me put a little bit of this color up here just to kind of add in a couple more places. All right, I'm happy with that. I'll go ahead and pass this on to Mark. He's going to take it and dry it for me. And that glazing liquid might take a little bit longer to dry, so that's normal if it does. All right, I want to show you one of the things that we're going to be doing later. We're going to be using a scrubby brush to do some dry brushing for some of the flowers. So I wanted to show you and kind of demonstrate this. I'm going to grab some of this wet paint here. And when you're using a brush and you're dry brushing these kind of flowers and you want them to be kind of really soft and subtle, what you're going to do is put your paint, load it pretty thick with paint, but then rub it really well off on your paper towel until it doesn't look like there's anything left on it. There is stuff left on there. As long as you don't wet it down and rinse it off, there's still going to be paint on there. So what we're going to do is go in and lightly scrub, and you can see where that paint is coming off right here. So what you don't want to do is continue to scrub in the same spot, because what will happen is you will end up with a halo. You'll get, if you scrub and scrub and scrub, you'll get this color kind of coming off on the outside edges, and you'll end up with this round little weird spot. And of course, this is a canvas that is raw, so it's kind of catching that paint a little bit more than it would normally catch it. But if I was to keep on scrubbing, let me go over it with another color. Grab some white. What happens is, now you can see it happening right here. I got a little bit too much wet paint on there. So what happened is it lifted that center part. And so it'll lift off the paint in the middle if you scrub it too long in the same spot. So let me do this again. And let me do it with too much paint on my brush. So I'm going to do it with too much paint. And what you'll see is you'll get this kind of really, really strong, you'll get strong edges on here, whereas you have this really soft look here. We got really strong edges, and if we keep on working this center part, and this is what a lot of beginners do, wipe that brush off to kind of example for you what it happens when it starts to dry. And if you kind of try to mess with it too long over and over in the same spot, you'll end up with this halo effect. You'll have this dark circle, and in the middle it'll be lighter than the outside edge. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you rub most of that color off on your brush and just do a really soft. It's better to do several layers over time than to try to do too much too soon. So we're just going to gently rub that on, and as soon as you see color, just kind of stop and start to move away from that and leave it like that, so that this is what we're going for. We're going for this really soft look where we don't have these rings around our flowers. All right, let me clean that out. You got it, hon?
I think so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to dry that brush out really well because I don't want it to be wet when I do that. The more wet the paint, the less it wants to do that kind of dry brush effect. It'll be a lot more difficult to get that soft effect. All right, so now we've got this. We're going to do one more layer, I think, of some color, but I think this time I'm going to kind of glaze it on. I may not put it everywhere. So I'm going to grab my glazing liquid here and my purple, if I've got any left here. There we go. I'm going to go up here and just kind of go back over these same areas that I did before. But you can see how soft that is. You're not seeing those brush strokes quite as much because we're kind of going back over and creating softer borders on those colors there. Grab some blue here and add that in there. A little bit of the burnt umber glazing liquid. I'm trying to keep it soft. And what I can do down here now on this edge that's still wet, once I get this color on, I can wet my brush, kind of clean it out. Or if you have another brush you can have handy, you can use that too. I wet it down and I kind of just tapped it on my paper towel a couple of times to get off a little extra moisture. And I'm just going to go along that edge from right there. And if it's getting too puddly, I'm just going to keep wiping off my color on my paper towel. And if you have a mop brush, you could use that. A lot of people like kind of using mop brushes for this kind of thing. Oops, see, that was an area that wasn't completely dry. But that's all right. It's fine. It's not going to hurt anything.
It was a little tacky, but I thought it would be all right.
Yeah. Well, not for what we're doing here because we're going to be scrubbing and stuff.
I didn't know how long I could be.
Yeah, no. It needs to be completely dry for this because it'll lift. We're going to do so much scrubbing and things on top.
Do you want me to keep going?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. All right, grabbing some of the lighter colors. This is just the unbleached titanium. And the gray that was here, so this was the gray that had the burnt umber and the ultramarine blue. Cashmere, what do you want? What? She's got stuff to say. Oh, she wants to get up on your lap. Oh. Okay, so this is kind of a pinkish gray color here. Just going back over all these areas here. Gonna add some darker color here and there. So like in here maybe. A little bit of darker color. And around the edges I can either use the kind of the glazing liquid or water. Either one. Here I'm going to use the glazing liquid and just kind of laid the color down where I want it darkest, and then I'm going around the edges. I'm not going to mess with that middle part too much. I'm just going to kind of soften the edges. And I'm working kind of, you can see from top down, kind of working in sections so that I'm not trying to do too big of an area at once. Otherwise it just won't, it'll dry too quickly on you. Right, grabbing some more of that kind of gray color right here. Gonna add that back up in here. These are all still wet, so I'm still working with wet edges on all of these colors. This down here is dry. But you want the under color to be completely dry because it'll lift like that did right there. There's just one little spot right there that lifted because it wasn't completely dry. So, which is fine. We've got enough layers going on over here that it's not going to really make a big difference, but just be aware of that. It can happen. Grabbing some of that lighter color. So I've got all these colors over here already kind of mixed. I'm just going to grab them. If I'm going too fast here, what you can do is kind of try to lay out your colors in the same area on your palette, and that way you kind of can keep track of where I'm at, because I do kind of skip around between colors a lot. Grabbing some of that blue. This is the ultramarine blue that had the gray burnt umber in it, and add that over here. Just making this really soft and pretty. You can see the difference already between this area here and this first layer. And this is much more obvious brush strokes in this area. Now we've got this more fuzzy, kind of softer look going on up here. Grabbing some of that white and pink mixture. And I'm not doing any of the orange yet because we're going to put those on kind of more strategically over the top of this after we get this first layer on. I'm going to put some more of this glazing liquid out. Actually, probably need a little bit more than that. Okay, there's just got a lot to say tonight.
People wanted to see her, so I'm posting a picture in the Facebook group.
Oh, she's really pretty. She's all white. She's a flirt too. She chirps at the boys when they look at her. She'll kind of like flirty face. She's so sweet. Only to them though. She's finally back up on my lap. It took her about how long did it take? I don't know, 3 weeks after I took her to the vet. So I'm the one that takes care of her. I take her to the vet, get her. She had to have a shot because she had a little antibiotic. She had to have an antibiotic shot because she had a little spot on her. She'd gotten a scratch and was getting infected. And so I took her to the vet, and then she wouldn't sit on my lap for like 3 weeks afterwards because she was mad at me. But cats. All right, I'm making quinacridone magenta cat drama. Burnt sienna and dioxazine purple there. And I still have all these other colors on my brush, but just making this kind of soft, dusty purple color, purpley red. Ooh, that's pretty. There we go. Add that there. Grab some of that glazing liquid and just use it to kind of smush that paint around with the edges. Soften it up and work it into. And if I have too much on my brush, which I feel like I do, I'm just going to use my paper towel and scrub all that off and just use the dry brush. And if it seems too dry, I can get a little bit of water. There we go. Work quickly here. I'm kind of slowing down to tell you what I'm doing, but I usually work pretty quickly here with this because you don't want it to dry. So. All right, that's good. It's starting to dry right here. You can see where it's lifting right there where I was letting it, talking too long about cats and stuff. Okay, I'm using that glazing liquid. I'm going to pull that color out. Right, let's use a little bit of ultramarine blue and a little bit of the yellow oxide, and I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that purple and mix it in with it too. I'm kind of mixing all of these colors because they're kind of visually going to blend in your, when when you're looking at them kind of blurry, all these colors are going to kind of blend in your eye. So use this kind of gray color, using all these other colors that we've already got on our brush here, not cleaning anything out. It still looks pretty purple. It's not really looking very green, so if you want a little bit more green, you could add a little bit more of your yellow and blue to this, but I'm kind of liking this color, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with it. Maybe grab a little bit more yellow and blue. Do a little bit more green down in this color, this corner, but it is gray because it's kind of got purple in our brush. So that purple and the yellow will mix and make kind of a brown, which creates that gray blue color with a little slight green tint to it. Yeah, definitely getting some lifting here.
I feel like I've failed at my job.
No, it's really not you. It's me, because now I've worked on this. You know, it's fine. It's really not a big deal. This background is kind of fuzzy enough that it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right, but while I've got this on here, I'm going to go ahead and put on some of our greenery grass and things.
With which brush did you just grab?
I'm grabbing the angle brush. This is the 3/8 inch angle. And I'm going to use the unbleached titanium, yellow oxide, and ultramarine blue. That makes a really pretty, like, olive green color, depending on how much blue or yellow you use. And then I'm using the unbleached titanium, and I grabbed some of that glazing liquid too. So what I'm going to try to do is put these on pretty quickly and hope not to lift off too much of this paint, because a lot of this is drying. So if I go over and over and over again over the top of it, it will lift. But if I do it quickly enough with this brush, it should just kind of skim over the top of it. Hopefully. We'll see how it works. So I've got my brush loaded. I added some white over here, so I've got kind of some darker color and some lighter color here. And I'm just going to, there we go. And I want it to be pretty soft. You can see where it's not sticking there because it's sticking to that paint is sticky. And I'm going to go back and forth, just kind of, there we go, through that paint. It's going to blend a little bit. You can catch it while it's a little bit wet.
Oh, we got an art question.
Yes.
So they would like to know, would you use the same blurry technique for other kind of blurry background
Yes.
paintings?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the key is just kind of doing these soft kind of brush strokes, and then, you know, working quickly in sections, and then going back over it, you know, 2 or 3 times with additional layers to add details, or, you know, to actually not add details, but to soften it even further. So that glazing layer, that second layer there, kind of softened all of our brush strokes in that first layer, and just kind of makes it much more fuzzy. If I did it again, it would do it even more. So I've got my angle brush here, and I'm just kind of trying to add some of this grasses, and they're really not super obvious in this picture in some of this background area, but there are a few, so I just kind of want to add a little bit of this in there. And if you want to soften them up, you can kind of put it on and then kind of go over the top of it a little bit to pull off some of the paint along that edges. It's the edges that you want to keep blurry on these. So if you don't want crisp edges on anything. That's the crisp edges that pull it, you know, make it look more focused. To keep it blurry, you want soft edges. All right, I think that's good. Go ahead and give that to you, honey. Let you dry that one more time.
So unexpected. Kitty in my lap.
It's a little bit harder too to blend on top of those canvas panels too, because there's not air kind of going through them. They're solid underneath, so it can take a little bit longer to dry. I'm gonna clean my brushes out while he's doing that really quick. And that's not super exciting, but all right, let me grab my little stick man here while he's doing that. We'll give him some little flowers at his feet. We did some trees. If you missed it, we did these Impressionist trees last Tuesday. This one, which was super fun, had all this really awesome texture, really easy. Like, I would do this with kids. It was so easy. And really fun because he used palette knife and all kinds of different things to create some texture and things in that paint. This one we're doing tonight, you could actually do with some texture too, probably. So there's our little tree that we did last week. So let me create this orange color that we're going to want for our flowers. I'm thinking a little bit of the quinacridone magenta with this cadmium yellow or cadmium red light, because it's got such an orangey tone to it. Be really pretty. And then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow oxide too to kind of tone it down and neutralize it just a little bit. I think that's pretty close to what we're going to want. I'm going to just put in a few little dabs. Stickman is Mark's little creation here. We just paint him something on him for fun whenever he's blow drying. Gives us something to do. What am I looking for? Where is my fan? Oh, there it is. All right, so if we want to use these, if you've ever used one of these, I'll show you kind of how you do it while he's talking. So you're going to want to get a little bit of water in it, but then you're going to want to press out most of that water because you don't want it sopping wet. So just you can check it and kind of make sure that it's not sopping wet. And then you're going to dip into your color there. And you can test it once or twice on your paper towel. Just make sure there's no like paint gummed up on the edges. And when you set it down, you're going to keep it in the same place and just twist it a little bit. So, okay. How you doing?
Yeah, that upper left corner is still
a little tacky. Okay. All right. So I'm going to use this color. I'm going to use this sponge here. Take most of that color off. I'm going to go ahead and use it up here. There we go. I'm just going to use it in a couple places here. This is actually kind of lighter than we're going to end up with it. I'm going to go over it with some of the darker peach. No, I want that on. Mark just turned off my fan. Like, what the heck?
Well, it wasn't on. I turned it on to help dry the painting. But
no, it was on because I turned it on. Yeah, it was because it was on, honey. I turned it on with this. Okay. Ask them. I was looking for it while I was talking to them. Alrighty. So we'll mix a little bit more of this color that's way too bright, obviously. But we're going to add white to it. Tone it down to a color closer to what we want. Grab a little bit more of that yellow oxide there. It's really pretty. And then if I want to, I think what I'm going to do is add just a tiny bit of purple. That will neutralize it even more because it's going to mix with that yellow in it and make it a little bit more of a normal color. You don't want anything too super bright. Some flowers obviously are, you know, going to be really, really bright, but this one has got a lot of purple undertones in it. Okay, so I think that that's pretty good. Grabbing that white, gonna mix that in there. Really pretty. Okay.
Okay, they would like to know if they don't have that spongy thingy, what else could they use?
We could use this brush, so I'll show you. You could use a Deerfoot stippler or another stipple brush. Just dab it off and do what we did on the thing there, and just kind of scrub in a circle. Just make sure that your background is completely dry, because otherwise it will lift off. See, it's lifting a little right there. But that's because I put in that color. So I'm just going to tap right there to get it to stick. And some of these are kind of more of a hard-edged shape. If I want to kind of soften those edges, I can kind of draw it out like that. But I need to make sure that I don't press too much more in that same spot, otherwise it'll lift that color off. So, and I can go kind of around the edges and kind of try to scrub around those edges to soften those edges up a little bit. And I'm going to grab some of that lighter color. Tap a little bit right in the center there. Let's tap a little bit of that color. And a couple of these too. Now that these are dry, or close, should be close to dry. This is how we get those kind of blurry flowers. There
we go. Hey, can I turn that fan towards me?
I don't know why it's so hot in here tonight. Is it warm outside today?
No, just the heater didn't come on today.
It's really hot.
I can switch it over to air conditioning.
I don't know. I don't know how hot it is in the house, but it feels pretty warm in here with all the lights on.
Let me go check.
It could be a hot flash too, so. There's no telling. Okay, grabbing some more of this color. Just adding little bits of this color here and there. Give it that soft look. Grab a little bit of that darker color. Do a little bit of darker color down here where we've got the deeper colors in our foreground area. Really pretty. Thank you, hon.
You're welcome.
So we can also do this with our other colors. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of the blue and purple color. If I've got any of that left. Doesn't look like I do. Yeah, picking up a little bit of that. It had that quinacridone magenta and purple. Make it a little bit more blue. I'm wiping most of it off. And I'm going to go in back over. And this is going to also soften up that greenery that we've got going on here. So it'll kind of, you can do it kind of along that bottom edge. Kind of soften up that green stuff that we've got going on. Give it a little bit deeper color along that base. Soften it. If you got it anywhere like too bright or dark, you can kind of do this. And I haven't even added more color. You can see how far this goes. Just scrubbing color in here. Really pretty. Washing that out. And I think I want to add some of this green with some of the unbleached titanium. Create a really light gray-green color. A little bit lighter than the greenery that we did. Again, take most of that out of the brush. And I'm going to use that to scrub over the top. Now this will be a little bit more subtle because it's lighter color. So it may not show up as much. This will also kind of make what you would do like if you wanted to kind of misty look, you know, if you wanted to add more kind of misty feeling, you'd add these lighter colors over the top of the darker ones with this method, and that creates that kind of smoky look.
So do we know what kind of flowers these are?
I don't.
Me either.
No idea. Not really. They look almost like a buttercup maybe or something like that, but that's not the right color. Kind of reminds me of that though.
I think they're farmalls.
Like the tractor farmalls?
Exactly. That should get the top going.
Now them's are fighting words right there. You don't want to start the tractor or debate again. I thought we'd put that to rest. About a year afterwards, I was still getting comments about what kind of tractor that was that we painted. It's been a while.
Now, my grandma was a florist, and those are not farmalls. So, how long do you think a Deerfoot stippler would last? Somebody's asked.
Oh, years.
Years?
Yeah.
It's a pretty robust.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I use them so long until they get worn down to nubs. I can find one of my old ones out here. Let me see if I've got one on this rack. Here, yeah. Let's see. This one started out as it was like this big when I started with it. So you can see how much it got worn down. You can tell it was my favorite. Yeah, they break off after eventually, but you'll end up with it down here. You can still use it. Yeah. So as long as it's I mean, even if it gets paint in it, it's pretty. They're pretty rough. They can be abused. All right, so here's our blurry background. So there you go.
One more question. Mm-hmm. Could somebody use zinc white in doing blurry backgrounds?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, zinc white's transparent, so you get the same kind of effect. Okay, using a little bit of this green here that I've still got mixed up. That was ultramarine blue and yellow oxide with the unbleached titanium. I'm going to do a couple more brighter. Now that I've got these other colors in here, I'm going to go in and do these a little bit lighter. A little bit more kind of in your face, like a little bit more deliberate about these ones. I want these to look like they're more in the foreground. So they're still kind of blurry, so they're not super sharp, but they're still a little bit brighter. I'm not going to blend them all the way in like we did the other ones. And I'm just loading my brush up and then dragging it along that edge. As long as I press my brush flat on both sides and start out with it with a crisp edge, it'll create these lines for me. There we go. You can see that I'm changing direction too. But I also want to point this tip in the direction that I want to end it. If I turn it too much, it'll create a fatter line for me, and I don't want it to be super thick. Okay, there we go. And then let's do burnt sienna and purple. A little bit of quinacridone magenta. That's kind of our go-to color. That was this color back here, right? Kind of a really pretty color. I'm gonna use a little bit of the glazing liquid and a little bit of our unbleached titanium to soften that color up. And this is going to be the stem color for some of our flowers here. So now I'm going to figure out where I want to put these flowers. So this one's going to be right up here, and it's going to angle down this way. So I'm going to start this way, and as I get down to the bottom, I'm going to press down a little bit harder to make that a little bit thicker there. Yeah, I guess that color's okay. Let's do another one right here. So if I want to lift some of that color off, which I won't, I'm trying to get it a little softer, I can go back over it, or I can take a paper towel and just kind of blot it a little bit. That will also help give me those softer edges on it, soften the color up a little bit. If I do it right after I put it on. I don't want to lift off all of the color, but I do want to soften it up a little bit. So this one is really high right here. It's going to curve around like that. And then this one is right here. Also curve. There's a little baby one. Oh, there's one right here. Up this way. And then there's a little baby one right here.
So we did say hi.
Yes, I did.
And we got several first-time viewers tonight, so welcome. So glad that you found us. And hope you subscribe, you like what you see, and check out her channel later on. She's got over 300 videos, painting tutorials of all difficulties, from beginner, kids levels, all the way up to more advanced. And I was going to say something else and I forgot it because I had to clear my throat. We're here almost every Tuesday night.
Yes.
At 6 o'clock Central Time in the U.S., and then also on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it pretty regular.
We have to. I was talking about that with my mods. I'm making a blue here with the white and unbleached or burnt umber. I'm sorry, white and ultramarine blue, and I'm adding a little bit of that red color from the stem. We tried changing the time on our Saturday show a couple times, and we both forgot what time we had set it for. One time Mark was at Walmart, and I called him and was like, "Where are you?
We're gonna be live in 10 minutes."
Yeah, exactly. You need to get over here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
So we keep it regular so everybody can find us. It's kind of like a soap opera.
So we don't forget
Yeah.
to be here too ourselves. Yeah. All right. I'm not 100% happy with that. All right, go in there, and I'm going to grab that purple and put it over the top again. Now, the more you fuss with this, the bigger chance that you're going to have of these getting wider and wider. That just happens when you kind of mess with your colors. So, or you're messing with your lines, they'll get kind of wider. So if you have a hard time with this, you can just do this first layer and don't do what I'm doing here. I'm just adding a little bit more detail, a little bit of blue to some of these. But you can totally leave this part out if it stresses you out. Just going over the top of my stems there, kind of in the middle. Just a little bit darker, a little bit lighter on some. Just kind of adding a little bit of difference to them so they're not all same. All right, there we go. Good enough. All right, and then when I've got this, I'm going to go ahead and actually also, I'm going to grab that blue again, now that I think about it. Grab some of that green. Make it a little bit more blue. And I'm going to make some stems, and I'm just going to use the edge of my brush and draw some little stem-like things, leaves. There's little leafy things on these. And they're kind of they kind of fan out a little bit, so I'm not doing it too detailed. And if you get it too dark, or you feel like you got too much, you just blot it. We'll soften it up and kind of blend it in a little bit. See that? So I'm going to go through here and just kind of add, and I kind of have it watered down too. You can see where it's kind of thinned out paint. It's not super thick, and that'll kind of also help with this effect. The closer ones, this ones and these ones are a little bit brighter, so you can kind of leave them more defined, but the ones back in here are pretty light colored. So you can even grab some of that green and do some of it in green. That green of the stem color. Grab some white. I'm going to spray my paints down. Somebody was asking about how I keep my paints wet for so long. One of the things that I do is spray it, but also you notice that I'm leaving half of this paint all without touching it.
Puddle.
So I'm only pulling the color off of one side of my paint puddles. What that does is kind of preserves this whole back side of the paint. It keeps it almost like is like a shell. It protects that paint underneath. And I keep it in a very small area, but I put out a little bit more paint than I think I'm going to need, and that gives it a little bit longer time to dry. If the thinner the paint and the more the less paint that you have out on your palette, the quicker it's going to dry. So if you have a really tiny little, if you're trying to conserve paint and you put out this little teeny tiny little spot, and then as soon as you pull out color off of it, you know, it's going to be fairly thin. It's going to dry almost immediately. So, and all of these colors that I've blended are going to dry really quickly too. So you just kind of have to know that and work quickly.
The real reason is she's the paint whisperer.
Mark likes to call me the paint whisperer. You're funny. So just using this blue and the green, adding leaves, just kind of random little leaf shapes here and there. If I keep them kind of close to the background color, you don't have to get super detailed with it. They should just kind of blend in, and you should be able to kind of just barely see them. That's kind of the idea. We want to keep them soft and sort of kind of like our so that one is really dark. So what I'm going to do is use my paper towel and just blot it a little bit. That makes it soft and softer, and then I can kind of go back in and add a little bit of the darker if I want it on there. And if this brush is, you know, too big and you're having a hard time kind of getting the soft look, you can, or, you know, getting it small enough, you can switch to a smaller angle brush at this point. Kind of like one big one and then like several little ones on either side of them. Okay, so that lifted off the color of the background a little bit too much right there. So I'm just going to go back in with a little bit of my green. Touched up. That happened because I pressed down too hard on that, and it just lifted the color. The paint acrylics, even though these are dry, technically the background's dry right now, it's still not completely cured. It takes about a day or so to cure, so it won't be completely set for a few hours still. So going back in with my dark now. Okay, here we go. All right, now it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what we want to do with our petals. So I'm going to grab the filbert brush here and some white and a yellow, cadmium yellow medium. Just a little tiny bit will do. Just want to make a kind of a bright yellow for our sunshine and wipe that off, and then I'm going to grab some of that pink that we're going to use on our flowers and mix that with it. Grab some more white. There we go. So it's just a really soft, yellowy, yellowed out version of that pink color. And I'm going to go in here and create the background for my flowers to go in. So I'm going to just kind of try to shape them out. There's sort of these like bowl shapes almost. And the filbert brush will kind of help keep it soft and flowy. I'm letting these outer edges be a little bit fuzzy because even though they're focused, there's still some of these, especially these ones farther in the back here and here, they're still kind of out of focus just a little bit. pressing my brush down and just kind of turning it, pulling it in towards the center there. Do a small one down here. Just opening up. The little one down here. Most of this will be covered up, but it'll do two things. It'll give us a lighter base to work with, so the lighter color will be easier to go over with our subsequent colors. And it'll also give us that kind of outline for the lighter colors that we want to leave on there. So we'll work the darker colors on top and leave some of this lighter color showing. Just a little bit down here. Let's just go ahead and put a little start a one down here. I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Grab some of that green. I'm going to just put in a few little leafy things back in here. I'll leave most of that, but let that dry just a minute. Try to get some of this. There we go. Some of this color on here. And grab a little bit more of that orangey color from that original color that we did. A little bit more orange with the white. Right, and I'm gonna go over the top, leaving a little bit of that yellow kind of showing through around the sides. I could do a couple more layers on here, so it's not going to look finished quite yet. Add a little bit of the glazing liquid on there just to get it to stick a little bit. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to add a little bit darker color, so I want to get that stem color that we had going on, a little bit of the quinacridone magenta, a little bit of that purple, and the burnt sienna. I'm going to add it to this color. There we go.
How you doing over there?
You doing a little bit of the darker color? Good.
Okay.
Good. Sorry.
You got it in your focus zone there.
I know, I'm thinking.
Uh-oh. Watch out, folks.
Trying to see what we want to do after this. I'm thinking like 2 steps ahead here.
Okay. How many steps is it till dinner?
I don't know.
I'm thinking that many steps ahead.
You're thinking to dinner.
My steps may be different than yours, though.
Right. Well, this step is going to be kind of ugly at first, so just going to know that going in. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of this darker color sort of at the base of these flowers to give it kind of anchor that color onto something, because it's too light right now. So this stem is going to go right up into there. So that stem is going to go all the way up in there, like that. Same thing with this one, that stem, and this one. So, and this one too. So I'm trying to figure out where those stems are going to end and add a little bit of dark color for that to go into. And then we'll add some of our lighter color over the top later. All right, there we go. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like what we're going to expect it to look like when we finished. A little bit closer. We can use some of this color in some places over here just to add just a hint of it, a couple spots in our background too. Okay, and I'm going to switch to my little small number 2 bright. Grab some more of the white and that yellow color. I'm going to go back in over the top of this and add some little bits of highlight in just a couple places. Should still have a little bit of this color in here, but this will just kind of brighten up those highlights that are on those flowers. These are really weird looking flowers. Like I'm looking at the reference and it doesn't look much like any flower that I've ever seen. So if it makes you feel better, you could make these into daisies or something like that, because these are kind of weird looking. But I'm just gonna do what I see. So you could do like poppies or something like that with them if you wanted to. Be kind of pretty. I'm going to do a little bit of this pink color around the outside edge here. Grab some of that pink color. I have water in my brush here and it's kind of blending these two together. just making it softer. So adding water, blending over that dark color. I made it a little bit darker than I needed it to be. And grab a little bit more of the dark if I take too much of it out. There's a couple places where it's fairly dark. There we go. Don't freak out when you get to this stage, because you're gonna start thinking, well, I'm starting to think, like, what the heck are we doing here? Doesn't look, doesn't look right. These ones are starting to look right. So these ones are definitely kind of not quite there yet. So these are just gonna take a few extra layers to get there. So just gonna know that going in. It's gonna they might not look real great until the very last couple of layers. That's okay. Going in with that lighter color there. Using that light white yellow color here. These ones are more blurry, so I'm just going to kind of tap in some color, not really define them at all. This one is more defined. Grab some of that pink, if I can get some that's not dry yet. Well, dried on me. Let's dry that down. Grabbing that yellow. Here we go. These petals are kind of making this round, almost like a oval shape right here. We're seeing the underside of the flower here, so I'm going to go in really dark with this quinacridone and burnt umber. I'm sorry, quinacridone, dioxazine purple, and burnt umber. There we go. really dark right here. And it widens out just a little bit. It kind of does this a little bit wider right here. There we go. Let me use some of this white, yellow color. On our leaves. Oh, if I can get it to stick. There we go. Just a few little highlights on our leaves. I'm just letting the flowers dry, so I'm add some details to our leaves here while we're letting those flowers dry. So we can blend them a little bit more, but we're getting really close. Grab some of that white and tiny bit of that yellow. Let's go back in here and add a little bit of that really bright and this is very kind of blurry over here, so I'm going to kind of tap it over the top of this to kind of blend it in. Going to grab that pink and go back over. Blend that in. Grabbing a little bit of the glazing liquid so that I can kind of blend it in. There we go. Going back up over the top. So I did the light color coming down, and now I'm kind of coming back up in the opposite direction, going over the top of that dark color and creating some petals in with this pink color here. And if we cover up our stem, we can put it back in, so don't worry about the stems. Just mainly wanted them in there because I was kind of losing my reference of where to end those colors on my flowers.
I was asked, which brush are you using currently?
This is number two round, bright.
Right. Man, I thought that.
Good job.
I really did, but I wasn't sure.
You're learning the brushes. Okay. See, oh, that's looking really pretty now. So you can see how now it's starting to kind of come together. It's this really bright contrast in this outline, these sharp outlines on the flowers that create that kind of look of that sunlight kind of popping through the flowers. Cleaning that out again, I want a little bit really bright white here on a couple of these. White, white. Keeping this one fuzzy. See the difference between this one and this one, how this one is much more defined. This one I've kept all those edges really blurry. And kind of soften them up as I put them on. Okay, let's grab some of that green. Well, I don't have any. Grab the blue and the purple. That'll work. I'm going to do that up over the top of this bud here. There's some of the stem kind of coming up over it. And if it's not showing up, I can do two things. I can either lighten it or darken it. So in this case, I'm going to go a little bit lighter because the area around it is pretty dark. Maybe grab some of that really dark purple, put that in there. There we go. Okay, we're almost there. I'm going to go back in here and darken up a little bit of the area where these stems kind of touch the flower. There's a little shadow right there usually. So I'm using that blue color. And I'll wipe most of that off because it's a little bit dark. Go back in with my water and just kind of soften that up a little bit.
That looks pretty amazing.
Thank you. It's starting to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just these layers, you know, you just kind of got to take your time with them. It's just, you know, it's easy to get kind of started and think, you know, you're not doing it right. I mean, even it doesn't matter how long I've been painting, I still struggle with those thoughts, you know, as I'm doing something like this that is a little bit kind of out there. You know, so it's a little bit less straightforward than, you know, some flowers that are pretty structured, easy to kind of create. These ones are a little bit more difficult, I would say. Not bad though if you just kind of do them in order like we've done here, you know, just adding a little bit of this purple now just to kind of deepen up some of those shadows, deepen up that contrast between the light and dark petals, the sunshine, making it even more obvious. little bit brighter yellow on some of these. A little bit of that cadmium yellow in with the quinacridone and the cadmium yellow light, or the cadmium red light. Cadmium red light, cadmium yellow medium. This one's a little bit more of a yellowy orange here. You've noticed I've used several different versions of this color too. That kind of helps. A little bit lighter here. A little bit more white. There we go. Okay, almost there. A few more little highlights here and there. And we will be done.
Well, then it's about time to tell people about where they can get traceables and stuff.
Yeah. So I've got traceables available for this and all of my other videos since 2017. Started in February 2017 over on Patreon. Patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. And traceables are $1. So unlimited downloads for $1 a month. Not $1 each, just $1 for straight up. And we've got
and it's a way to support
videos.
The channel.
Yeah, it's a way to support the channel. Give us a little, helps us keep the videos free.
Keep the lights on.
Yep.
Buy new equipment.
Exactly. All this kind of new stuff that we've added in the last couple of years to kind of help improve our channel's looks. And palette cam got added last year and some others like that. Going in with a little bit brighter orange here now. Just a pop of really bright orange in a couple of these. Yeah, so we do all kinds of fun stuff. Right now we're working on I've got a Facebook group just for patrons for the $10 level, and we're working on a project right now that they voted on in my group. They get to vote on what they want me to paint in there, and so we paint on something all month long usually in my weekly art chats in that group. So we're working on a woman in a gown. It looks a little bit like Claire from Outlander, so if you're into the Outlander series, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think it was subliminal. We were all looking forward to the start of the Outlander series coming back. So.
Right.
Men in kilts.
I see what you're doing in this group now. Okay.
You see what we're doing in that group now? Yeah.
Yeah, so at the $10 level, you get access to a bonus video each month. Also.
$5 level.
And, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about $10 level.
Oh,
so,
yeah, sorry.
So at the $10 level, you get the traceables.
Right.
You get the access to the Facebook group where there's additional tutorials and chats and
polls,
sharing polls.
Pick all kinds of stuff.
And a bonus video each month. The last ones were like 4 hours long, 6 hours long. So
yeah, we do. Yeah, something that's quite detailed usually.
Much detaileder. And then the $5 level, which is in between, gets the access to the traceables and just the bonus video. But still, again, it's a way to say thank you, support the channel, get a little extra content and stuff. And
yeah, so there's 2 bonus videos a month. There's a challenge video in the Facebook group, and there's a bonus video for everybody that's at $5 and above.
Right.
So you were calling them both bonus videos, but
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's how we keep them separate. So just
challenge video in the Facebook group.
Right. Because that one takes several weeks to finish.
Right. Okay.
And then the bonus video is usually about 4 hours long. 3 hours usually around. It probably averages about 3 hours and 3 to 4 hours once a month. And we just do that in all one setting. All right, so I'm mixing up some of this light highlight color here, and I'm just going to tap in some highlights with my hand brush. And you want to thin down your paint so that it'll come off your paint if it's, or brush. If it's too thick, it won't splatter for you. Oh, beautiful. Kind of looks like dust motes coming through the sunlight, you know, kind of catching the light like that. I think I really like the splattering effect. You could do a couple different colors if you wanted to. You could maybe do a darker color too. I might do a little bit of this blue. Get a little bit of that ultramarine blue in here. This will show up on our lighter color. See that, well, there we go. It's a little bit thicker, so it's taken a little bit more to get it to splatter for me there. There we go. Beautiful. And if you get it where you don't want it to go, you can always kind of blot it off. But I like kind of, I think I might get it off over the flowers where it kind of went over the flowers, maybe just to get that part off. But there we go. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I really love the colors in this one. It's turned out really pretty. With all these kind of blues and purples and with the orangey color of the flowers. I went a little bit brighter than the reference photo, is a little bit more gray. So if you want to gray it out a little bit more, you could add a little bit more of your browns to your colors to kind of gray out. This background especially was a little bit more gray in our reference photo, but I really like the kind of brighter colors, obviously. So kind of went with a little bit brighter colors.
Oh.
Let me sign it here.
Yeah, while you sign it, I got something to do. I'm not very good at ringing the bell with my left hand. He's a little sleepy tonight.
He's a little sleepy, yeah. He's sounding a little tired.
And of course, my phone did not record the super chat.
Uh-oh.
Maybe chat didn't go far enough yet. Nope, it's too late. So,
oh no.
I apologize. We had a super chat tonight. And the message I remember was, thank you, Mark and Angela. But unfortunately, my phone did not snap the picture like I expected it to. So I'm so sorry for not recalling.
Screenshotting that.
Yep, screenshotting the person. So.
Well, thank you.
First drawing the painting and now that.
Sorry, hun.
Oh, man.
It's not been a good night.
Off night.
It's all right. It's recorded there. I'll go look back and see who it was, because it should be in the chat as, you know, as it happened. But anyhow.
Okay, somebody says it was Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
So, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for saving us.
Yeah.
People in chat. They remembered. The sport is awesome. So.
All right, guys. I'm going to get off of here.
What are we doing Saturday?
We're doing what are we doing? The trees that my Patreon folks voted for.
Ooh.
So, did a poll in Patreon, and they voted for this autumn landscape with it's kind of like a sunset. The sun's filtering through some autumn trees. And
so everybody
really
can
pretty. Check
out your channel because you've posted out your schedule.
Yeah, I've got my schedule all the way through the end of November.
Some pretty
posted.
Sweet Christmas
Yeah,
ones.
we got some Christmas ones coming up I'm looking forward to. So
it's going to be great.
Be really fun. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time. Bye.